How is it that teenagers filming at home are able to make videos and live streams that not only look high quality, but rival multi-million-dollar production companies? Stay tuned on Moxie Talk. We are going to teach you everything you know to do a DIY video studio. Hi everyone, I'm Fia Fastbinder and welcome to Moxie Talk, where we help you find your voice, share your message, and lead with confidence. Have you ever wondered how to set up your own video studio? Well, we're going to answer that question today on Moxie Talk. And the answer is that there are simply best practices for factors like lighting, audio, and you can make really good use of angles and editing. There's so much great equipment out there today. And the great news for businesses and professionals looking to make their own video content is it's all super accessible and easy to use. Platforms like YouTube and TikTok have catalyzed all sorts of innovation and creativity, bringing professional looking video production into your home. Presentations, webinars, and all other productions normally reserved for studios are now you're able to do this out of your bedroom and your office. So how do you set up a room to record a video? How do you set up your own video recording studio in your home? There's a couple things you'll need. First and foremost, you need to reduce all noise and distractions in your video recording studio. You also need to find a reliable source of lighting, and we'll dive into that more later in this video. Next, you need a setup that's clean and professional. A background that is not going to distract is really important. You might want to have a blank wall. We'll talk about different ideas for backgrounds in a second. And then last but not least, you need to have a stable place for your camera. How do you do these things? What tools do you need? Now let's talk tech, because as difficult as it is to decide which camera you want, which app you want to use, which software you want to use, which hardware you want to use, these tools are going to be the foundation upon which your professional filming rests. First, camera setup. First and foremost, you're going to need some sort of camera. You might already have a decent camera on your phone. A lot of people just use their phones to record really professional looking videos these days. You can also use your laptop camera. For most videos, you want to ensure that you're filming horizontally. This is called landscape orientation. The only exception to this rule is if you're filming social media videos that people are more likely to be holding in their phones this way instead. Let's talk a little bit about editing software. First of all, it's important to know that no equipment you buy is going to make you an amazing editor on your first try. You're going to have to practice editing at home. And if you're filming something like a webinar or a video that's going to be pre-recorded, it's going to require some editing. But you only need super simple software. You do not need to be some kind of avant-garde filmmaker to learn how to edit. So for every exorbitantly overpriced software suite that's out there, there's always some free community available software that you can use. And a lot of this free software rivals the commercial products. You're going to have to be willing to put up with some bugs in the software because it is free, but most of the time you can make it work, you can overlook it, and with a little bit of patience, it'll work for you. Whichever way you go, commercial software to edit or free software to edit, you need some essentials. The first is to make sure that your software does cutting and pasting. The second is transitions and subtitles. These are really important and commonly used. And a selection of stock artwork and music is helpful too. You'll probably end up using these. But these can be found for free too, and legally if you're willing to dig. You do not need to spend a lot of money paying for music. A lot of sound artists release music and sound effects for free, and there's a lot of traffic to those sites. So you'll find that you can, with a little bit of patience and a little bit of digging, find a lot of free software available to you. So now let's talk a little bit about the audio that you'll need. For the best sound quality, you're going to want to have one device for your camera and one device as a microphone. They are not the same. Say, for instance, you use your laptop as the camera and your phone for the audio. That works. You could also do it vice versa. It sounds like a lot, but this is going to result in the best and clearest sound. And there's nothing that screams amateur more than bad quality sound. So all you'll have to do is splice the video and the audio together in the editing. And this is a lot easier than it sounds. This is going to call for you to start the scene with something that you can show and also can be heard in the audio, like a clapperboard. That's why they use these in movies. But if you can't afford a clapperboard, you can just use your hands and instead. It works just as well and it's free. It's important to note that both your phone and your laptop are omnidirectional. This means that they pick up sound from all over the place, every direction. So even plugging in headphones with a built-in mic is going to significantly improve the quality of your audio. Either way, it's important to be in a room with as little noise as possible, but I highly recommend that you use some kind of headphones at the very least for your audio. And it's not just a good rule of thumb for filming, it's also essential to even your virtual communications. If you're doing a Zoom meeting, if you use your computer a lot for virtual meetings, your audio will be so much crisper and clearer if you, at the very least, plug in a set of headphones. Or you can get an external mic, like a Yeti mic or a lavalier mic. These will up the quality of your sound by miles. So now let's talk about setting. You're going to find that recording sounds too airy, too echoey, too boxy, unless you put something on your walls to dampen the sound. If you were to look at most professional video recording studios, they have like egg crate carton on the walls, or they tape blankets on the walls. So this is really easy to do at home. You can gather up all your spare blankets and pillows. You can tape them to your walls and your ceilings and then listen to the sound and get it to the place that it doesn't sound like you're talking in a coffee can. If you want to invest in something more professional, egg crate, egg carton mattresses, or use that foam, or even moving blankets are a more professional option. So anything that's going to absorb the sound on the walls around you is going to help you have a sound that sounds professional and doesn't sound tinny. Okay, we've talked about some ideas for audio. We've talked about some ideas to make sure your audio sounds well, padding your walls. Let's talk a little bit about your background. So the background is what your viewer sees in the video, and we can compare it to a flower arrangement. If you've ever noticed that flower arrangements, they have like some flowers that are maybe the least expensive flowers that are around the really expensive flowers like the orchids or the roses. So that's like exactly the same with your background. You want a background that supports you and looks like in brand with you, but isn't distracting. You want to be the star of the show. If you have no budget, it's totally acceptable to use a blank wall or even a bed sheet or a curtain that's blank behind you. This works better than having some sort of distracting, jumbled up, messy background. You want to make sure that whatever is in your background isn't distracting your viewer from you. You don't want them squinting and saying, "What is that? Is that her bed sheet in the background?" You want to make sure it's just plain, seamless, something that will make sure that you are the star of the show. So you might want to do a virtual background if you're thinking, I absolutely have no walls in my apartment. I don't even have a bed sheet that I can hang, not even a place to hang it. You could do a virtual background, and this is useful for filming at home because you don't have to make sure your house is clean. You don't have to have a blank wall. You don't even have to have a place to hang your bed sheet. So the technology for virtual has become a lot better, and it's more affordable and it's more accessible. The only bad thing about virtual is if you've noticed, sometimes people move like this and you can see the real background behind them. So if you're going to do this, make sure that you stay really still, because the technology isn't there yet unless you have some fancy schmancy editing system and lights that really bring that virtual background to life. So make sure if you're going to use virtual, you stay really still. And if sheets or walls aren't options available to you, and you also don't want to do a virtual background, you can also use the most professional room in your house, like a home office. As you can see here, we're filming in a home office, or any professional space. It's perfect as long as it doesn't distract and it's not super messy. If we were to turn this camera around, you would see some messy desk spaces, but we leave this space as our background for filming. So you want your background, again, to be professional, clean, not distracting, and something that really seems in the style that you want your videos to be in. Make sure also, if you're going to do this background, I can't stress this enough, that there's no mess in the background. What happens if you have a messy desk or a messy bookshelf or some kind of mess in the background is your audience, your viewer, spends the entire time being like, are those kids' toys behind him? Did he leave his video, or did he leave his gym equipment in the background? So make sure there's nothing that's going to distract their attention from you. I know this sounds really obvious, but if you have children in your house that can be heard fighting, screaming, laughing, doing some kind of wrestling smackdown, move them, make sure that you cannot hear them. Mics pick up so much sound. So even if they're not in the room, if they're in the room next to you, you'll probably be able to hear them in the audio. So you want to make sure that your kids are as far away as possible. Believe me, I have kids of my own. I know this is easier said than done. And you also, a couple of other things to remember is, don't pick a background that's the same color as your outfit or your hair. I've learned this the hard way, but using a brown background for me makes me look like a floating head, and you definitely don't want to be a floating head in your video. As far as filming in public, this is pretty difficult too. I know in movies, they make it seem like everybody's speaking in public, like they can be having a scene at Starbucks and we can just hear the actors, but this really is not the case if you're doing your own videos. Your mics will not just get you, they will get everyone around you. I guarantee you that the people in that Starbucks are not extras and they're going to distract and sabotage your shot. I really, really highly recommend no filming in public. While you're trying to find this right place to film, you also want to think about a couple things that probably are not so obvious. The first is no glass in your background. Windows or glass on your bookshelves or a picture frame with glass, these all reflect light, and then you can see the camera in the reflection. So, and sometimes you see this kind of blinding spot of light coming off that glass. So make sure as you're trying to find this perfect place to film that there's not glass around. Even a window can show the camera in the background. And even though everybody knows you're filming this, there's something about seeing the camera in the view that just is distracting, and people want to believe that they're just there with you and this is not something that's being recorded. On this note, and I am only going to say this once, never, never, never film in your bedroom if we can see your bed behind you. Even though you're a PhD, filming in your bedroom is, first of all, too much information for your viewer. It's not going to make you look professional, and definitely is not going to make you perceived as a subject matter expert that you are. So make sure, if it's in your office, if it's in your living room, if it's someplace that we can see too much of your personal life, that we put that to the side or hang some kind of sheet or background so that we don't see too much of your house. Let's talk a little bit more about lighting before we move on. So first of all, lighting is one of those things, just like your audio, that no one notices when it's done right. If it's done wrong and we see shadows or people are overlit, then we notice it. What you want is soft light. Soft light is your friend when it comes to filming at home. You do not want direct sunlight. Soft light makes everything kind of visible without washing anything out or blinding it. So if you think about sunlight or daylight, it's really bright, right? So you want something very, very soft. And you can use natural light if it's coming straight towards you from a window. You can also get some kind of stronger lights. There's a lot of DIY light kits, ring lights, lights that will make all the shadows go away and make sure that you look professional. If you're in a pinch and you need to film a video and you don't have time to purchase a ring light or some kind of professional light, even table lamps will do in a pinch. Take out all of your desk lights and your table lights and start to maneuver them until you find something that makes it look like you have nice soft light on your face. Whatever your light source is, it's best to have the light coming from the same direction as the camera, right? So that's why I said if you're using a window for your light, the window is behind the camera, so it's coming towards you. This will minimize shadows. If you do something where the light is coming from directly overhead or from the side, you're gonna see you look like Phantom of the Opera. There's gonna be like half of your face in shadows. So make sure the light is coming the same direction as the camera. Okay, so we've talked about lighting. We've talked about some easy ways to do lighting. We've talked about some more professional ways to do lighting. We've talked about background in depth. Probably the last deep dive we need to take is into what kind of microphone you use. Now, the quality of your audio is top priority when filming. More than your background, more than your lights. Most people are willing to sit through a recording with poor video, but sound is a killer. No matter how great your content is and how great your delivery is, if your audio is off, people are going to tune out. So which microphones are the best that you can afford and make you sound great, but are not going to break the bank? No matter how great your space is, if your microphone is poor quality, it's going to make you sound bad. So good microphones are really important. They're not hard to come by, and they're actually relatively affordable. For between $50 and $200, you can get a microphone that's more than just adequate. It's going to cover all of your audio need. And it can be as simple as a lavalier that goes under your clothes. That's what I'm wearing now. It can be a Yeti mic that sits on your desk if you're sitting. You could even do what's called a boom mic, which comes from above. It's suspended from above. They all work. They're all relatively inexpensive and pretty easy to set up if you watch some YouTube videos on how to do it. Another affordable and kind of fun thing to look into is what we call pop filter. Now, a pop filter makes a huge difference if you are what we call aspirating your P's and T's. This means going P or T. You can hear that in my mic, right? If I was not able to make sure I am saying P and T, then I could just buy what is called a pop filter that will take that out for me, and it'll make sure that your audience isn't going, oh, every time you say a P or T word. The first thing to do is to invest in a tripod. Unless you are filming the sequel to Blair Witch Project, you want to make sure that you have a tripod that can accommodate either your camera or your phone, if you're using your phone, or maybe both. And if you're really on a shoestring budget and you cannot afford a laptop tripod or a camera tripod or a phone tripod, just stack up books or board games and put your phone or your camera on that. But what you want to make sure is that you're not holding your camera or your phone. Nobody has hands that are steady enough to make sure that the frame is exactly the same every time. And if you're doing something professional and it's not just a TikTok video, you want to make sure that you're using some kind of tripod. That makes sure that you're centered for your shot, you're not shaking, you are the center of attention as a speaker if this is what you want, or you can be on the side, which is more like broadcast news style if that's what you want. So what if you only have your smartphone available to you as a camera? If you have an iPhone or a current Android, really these cameras are almost as professional as the professional movie cameras. And actually, do you know that a lot of movies are being shot on iPhones these days? The only thing you need to make sure is that you're using your front-facing camera, not your back-facing camera. These are the best cameras to use if you're using your phone. The other thing that can make or break your video is your angle. We talked about using a tripod. If you're going to set up your tripod, make sure that it's at face level. You don't want it below you so like we can see your nostril hairs, or some kind of above you that's going to look like some Hitchcock film. It should be straight on, eye level with the speaker. And all of these things, everything we've talked about today, from background to lighting, to audio, to framing, to how you set up your video studio, all of these are completely accessible to you. None of these things are going to break your bank account. And I guarantee you that the more you dive into creating your own video studio, the more accessible it's going to be to you, the more confident you're going to be using this equipment and figuring out what works for you. So I hope that all of this information that I've shared with you has made you feel more confident that you can set up a fully functioning professional video studio in your home, in your office, anywhere except your bedroom and Starbucks. If this video has helped you and you feel that there are some people in your life, whether they're colleagues or somebody else you know that needs a video studio, please pass this video on to them. You can also like it. You can subscribe to our Moxie channel. We've got tons of videos on media coaching. This is our first one on DIY studios, but everything from how to deliver your presentation to how to record it, to how to do interviews, everything you have to do on camera is a video. There's a video out there. And if you really like what we're doing here at Moxie, check out our website, moxieinstitute.com. We've got all sorts of live classes you can attend on media training, and we'd love to have you as one of our participants in our next media training series. Take care.